for anyone hearing that brrr in the background,
it's hot as hell. Okay,
it's really hot.
Get used to it.
So it's fun.
We are not turning it off.
She's okay. Thank you. Now, on to the podcast. Hello again, Nollywood fans, casual viewers, lovers, and complete newbies. This is our 10th episode on the traditional epic historical movies. We're going to be talking about characters and notable actors, directors, / films. Enjoy. Now, have we talked about characters? We haven't talked about the characters that you would find in a normal, traditional, historical period, epic, whatever. First of all, and the most notable of all, you have the king.
The Igwe, the Oba, the Ovie,
the Olu, the Ife, the Emir, the Sultan, etc., etc., etc.
You've never once watched a film where there's a Sultan.
The Sultan of Sokoto. I'm very sure that there is a Sultan of Sokoto.
There's a Sultan of Sokoto. I'm not saying that there isn't. Which film have you watched that there's a Sultan in it?
I don't know, but that would be cool. The Igwe, usually played by the elder Peter Doce. We all know him. He was a cool coin. Things Fall Apart. He's a very well-known man, a very well-respected man.
Should be.
Until his son came and poured sand in his garri. But
I think that's disrespectful to Peter Doce to say that his son's
misbehavior.
I was going to say indiscretions.
Oh, I love it.
That's a better word. Thank you.
I'm just saying that he had a legacy.
He still has a legacy. Yule Doce had a legacy that he has ruined. That is what has been ruined by his indiscretions. Not Pete. Pete is just...
Are you
Mr.
calling him
Doce? Mr. Doce or Peter Doce's legacy is still there. It's still like there's no Nigerian that grew up in Nigeria, grew up with these films that you say Peter Doce to and they don't know who that is. And if you come across such a person, they're lying. They're not Nigerian. They didn't grow up there. No.
They're probably Ghanaian.
They are not educated.
I'm so sorry to our Ghana
They are
fans.
not cultured.
And then on the other side, the Coke to his Fanta.
That's unacceptable.
You have Olu Jacobs, dignified, theater trained. I mean, I think Peter Doce is theater trained.
Probably,
yes.
yeah.
Most of the veteran actors are theater trained.
Trained, yeah, classically.
As I said, dignified, speaks his words slowly. If you want a king that has some gravitas, but in a different way from Peter Doce, you go for Olu Jacobs, and then you know you have a king.
I think they have like different ways of... No, actually, I would say they have different ways of talking, because I think if you actually think about it, they speak with about the same cadence, about the same speed.
True.
If you think about like them in that role, they're not usually not raising their voice. They're usually not
except
speaking.
when they do, and then all hell has broken loose.
Exactly. Or like they're not very expressive, but
they're not very expressive
in that they are not loud, they are not
okay, they take their time. Yes,
yeah,
and that is why they have that aura of dignity.
Yeah. You have other such veteran actors. So someone like Alex Osifo, if I see, he wouldn't be out of place in an Igwe role.
You know what? Once you are a Nollywood actor over a certain age, you have played a king.
You have to have played an Igwe. If you haven't, then they don't rate you as much as you think that they do.
That's a bit rude.
I said what I said. No, Marianne. Even there's Igwes in modern-ish Nollywood.
Yes, YouTube Nollywood.
Come
right out and say, don't take
the ones where they're in an actual built palace with a village and things like that. So there's the opportunity for you to play those parts, and they still don't call your agents. Like,
I don't know. What's the process for Nollywood, like casting those roles? Is it just a call, or do you have the audition?
I mean, it depends. I think it depends on the actor themselves. It depends on the actor, the production, the director, and I think it works very much the same way as Hollywood. Marianne, don't be disrespectful.
Let us not speculate on things we do not know. When we do have a guest that deals with that, I'll ask them. Okay, moving on. Another notable character you find is the queen.
I don't think she's a notable character. I think there will be a
Every king has a queen.
Okay, that's literally what I was just about to say. Every king will have a queen or several queens. But you, as you're listening to this, who is the first person that comes to your head?
I don't know.
Nobody will stick out as a queen.
Because queens play... Okay, sometimes the queen is important, sometimes not, but there's always a queen.
There's always a queen, but there isn't an actress that will be like, okay, yes, this is her role.
Queen. That's what I was born to play.
That was not really. So, I mean, the same way we said, unfortunately, once you get to a certain age,
you have played the queen.
Demographic, you would have played a queen, or you will be looked at to play the queen in a village film.
But they're archetypes. For example, if you see Ngozi Ezeno, you know she's going to be nice. In fact, I don't think...
No. I think you're going to say that you've never seen Ngozi Ezeno wicked in the film. I have. It was shocking, and it made her character all the more disturbing.
I know, right? That would be weird. I would want to watch that one.
Or like with Annabelle, where Patience Ezoko was a nice woman. Her children were trash though.
Yeah, but then you were like,
raised them better.
So something not quite right about this world being nice.
Marianne, literally from the start of that film, you see Patience like, she's going to kill this girl. She doesn't kill girl. She's going to do this to this girl.
She doesn't.
She's going to do this. She leaves her up. Oh.
But speaking of Patience Ezoko, if she's the queen, she's going to be up to some shenanigans.
But then we were saying that I actually can't recall Patience Ezoko as the queen to an Igwe.
There are some movies where she's the queen to the Igwe.
Yeah, but then I feel like she's too big a character, or too big an actress, too big a character to be put in that role that nobody really pays that much attention.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So if she's there, I'm not too big, but I think compared to Ngozi Ezeno though, if she's there to play a role. She's not there to be the typical queen. But if you see like Ngozi Ezeno, she's just the benevolent queen. She may or may not have anything to do with the plot. She's just a benevolent queen. And you know what? I feel like queens, most kings are usually of an advanced age, but queens sometimes are not. Yeah. You can have young queens.
What point is it that you're making that we as Nigerians and as women don't already know?
I don't know.
There's no new points there. That an old man with power is with a younger woman. Oh, shock, shell, horror.
Prince always needs a wife.
But then the prince is again not a particular actor that comes to my mind.
I'm sorry, but have we not said Ken Eriks?
Ken Eriks is
Eula
but not in a traditional film.
Yes, in a traditional film.
I mean, yeah, but not like, it's not, I feel like when we talk about like notable actors to a certain typecast, I feel, yes, you say Igwe, you think Peter Doche, you think Olu Jacobs. When we say, oh, who is the prince? Yeah, I'll think Ken Eriks, but I think it's just a generic, to me, the prince is a generic role. And the prince is a generic role. As you just have to be a good enough actress to play those roles. It's not anything that's going to like...
Everybody has been a prince, everybody has been a princess.
Exactly.
Also, can we just explain why are we so obsessed with Ken Eriks on this podcast?
Because he's great. You know he sings.
Yeah, I know he sings. Oge was just saying that we just have an undue interest in Ken Eriks. He's a good actor. He comes, he delivers, and I think he's old Nollywood, new Nollywood, Nollywood on YouTube, Nollywood on Netflix. True. It's just props to Ken Eriks.
A lot of props. I love Ken Eriks.
Waving the flag. Anyway, moving on. I feel Yul Edochie is always the prince though. I still don't agree with you. I agree to some degree about the typecast. On the other hand, when you stop and think about it, and you think, oh, Yul Edochie is in the film, he has two roles. He's either the prince or the cultist. What I'm saying is that the prince always needs a wife, or the prince is always...
the prince is always a young, dashing, charming-ish, usually.
A youth.
youthful man, and then that directly relates to
the romantic aspect of it.
Yeah, the romantic
of course
interest.
The prince is always the romantic lead, like in olden days Nollywood, or like video streaming Nollywood. If it was Michael Zoraye as the prince, he was there to cause trouble. He was there to be the jealous lover.
No, but then I feel like that is like the more modern princes. If you get what I mean. So the princes that have cars, the princes that live in palaces. So I think that is where you start getting like a bad prince, because they're a bad boy prince.
Oh yes.
Whereas
we talked about the bad boy in the romance episode.
Whereas in like your epics and your traditional films,
or does he have?
Yeah, less. Wow, that's racist.
Gazelles.
You're more focused. You're more focused on like the journey and how he's supposed to be a certain kind of character, because you're looking for like your knight characters and your Prince Charming characters, whereas in a modern film you're just looking
for the bad boy,
for the bad.
I think they really do bad boys in epics.
No, you don't really see a lot.
I think that there's something interesting there, that you rarely see the bad boys in epics, because the process of redeeming him is a bit. There's not enough time.
There's not enough.
And
I think there's not enough. There's
not enough interaction.
Yeah.
Between the characters for the woman to say he has to fall in love with her at first sight, and then we have to see the struggle. If we see the process of them falling in love, we sort of don't have that time. Although you do have the arrogant prince. There's this girl on TikTok, on Instagram, you've seen her, is a nanny. She does the most hilarious show.
Is that the one that was the mermaid that had the purple eyes?
Yes. She just like
and they were all her.
She gives us Nollywood film like full scale productions. She's talented and we love her. She just brings it all the time. But yeah, so she does a lot of prince roles, and it's like, yeah, you get it. And the princess is an archetype of that. But you do have the arrogant princess that falls in love with the humble hunter.
And that's it. I guess a trope.
Yeah, what we're saying is that you rarely have the bad boy prince in epics, but you can get the bad girl.
It's like a disrespectful princess.
Mostly because, you know, what does she have to show? She doesn't need to show her cars. She just needs to show her charms, you know. She has a gaggle of servant girls following her, just extravagantly, and you know she's just beyond it. And I'm just saying, sometimes
the princess is bam, Miriam.
The princess is.
We've discussed this already. Okay. Always bam.
Yeah, so you have the princess, and the princess, it could be anyone. It could be those days when they were acting.
Oge Okoye, Mercy Johnson, Genevieve.
And for the new ones, you have people like...
I've not finished. Omotola.
Just name all of them.
Kate Henshaw. Sandra Achums.
Have you finished?
Chacha Eke.
Chacha Eke is both old and new.
Choma Chukwuka.
Akosa is her married name.
Do you know what? I've never seen Nse Ekwesim in a village film.
She's been in one. I've watched one. She was very good in that.
She's good anyway.
She's good in everything. That is true. I mean, yeah. But there was one. It was very good. And then we'll go for the new Nollywood. The new Nollywood gals. I have to say, as we said, for the YouTube movies, and some we find on Prime, we have people like Destiny Tiko, Uju Okoli, Chacha Ike again, and then if we're talking about YouTube,
Mercy Johnson again.
But if we're talking about YouTube movies, we must recognize Ujegu Z Ujegu. I hope that's the pronunciation of his name.
I don't think that's the pronunciation of his name. But I know exactly who you're talking about.
That man is a trailblazer on YouTube and traditional movies.
Yes.
That man, like, I love his movies. And in those days, he used to have 4 parts to his movies. I don't know if they have changed now. 4 parts to his movies. Perfect setup. He used to create an entire world with entire traditions and an entire set of values. Just beautiful.
And I think the one thing about his films is that the script of those films are usually unmatched because he's very,
very creative, very talented, giving us new.
Yeah.
And I feel like he's very underrated because, well, first of all, he mostly makes period pieces, and I'm sorry, but a normal period piece in New Nollywood is not really respected. We know this. If it's not doing something, it's not respected. I don't know how to put it, but I just feel like he's very, very underrated, and we should give the man the props that he deserves.
He does deserve.
I think he does get a lot of props too.
He does,
but not enough.
He's very. I think there's a word that I'm trying to think of, but I can't think of the word. But the way he puts words together,
the way he arranges words in a script,
is actually something that you don't see very often.
Yes, I agree, and I like that he likes to play with traditions. He likes to play with like the traditional Igbo, the traditional Igbo culture, and different. What I really like about him, and I've always said it, even from my days when I used to review movies, and I used to love to review his movies, is he's able to create a world, and that is very hard to do. And I'm sorry, not a lot of Nollywood movies do that, but he's able to create a world that you're like, how do I describe it? It's like it's a world that is intrinsic to the film. It's not really a world that we are living in, but it's a world that works for the film. So he's able to remove that suspension of disbelief because of the way that he directs it, because of the way he poses his characters, because of the way he tells the story. So yeah, I love that guy. He's very, very good.
Very, very good.
What were we talking about?
The characters you find in a Nollywood epic movie.
Okay.
I think another big one is the hero.
It's also always played by Gentle Jack.
Not always. Mostly though, he has the look for it, we can't lie. But the hero is obviously the person that is going to
the hero, the warrior, the
that is going to triumph.
Yes.
In these epics where you have to go on like long journeys. So you have your Sam Davies. I think there's a one really big film that he was in. We'll talk about it a bit later on.
Igodo.
Land of the Dead. Land of the Living Dead.
Anthony, I'm very sure that scared the pants out of us.
Yeah, oh no. Most of Sam Davies films are terrifying.
Yes. When I used to be very scared of him as a child.
Terrifying. But he's great.
He's good.
Very, very good. So you have your Sam Davies, your Gentle Jack.
I once watched a film where Gentle Jack was Moses.
Yes.
So that happened. Where he led his people out of slavery.
Yes. That was a thing.
It was good.
I'm pretty sure there was a stream in that.
Yes, and they had to cross the stream. Yes, Antonia, I remember that.
Do you know what? Yeah, I give props to any Moses movie that is not what is that Exodus God of Kings or King of Gods or whatever that stupid
I think
freaking
that
movie
might be the one time or one of the several times when Nollywood trumps Hollywood.
Have you seen that film?
This is it.
There was a film. No. We're segueing. Okay, we're segueing. No to that film. Don't watch it. If you want a Moses movie, watch Prince of Egypt and be happy.
Oh, watch this Moses film that we cannot recall the name of.
I'm sure if you type in Gentle Jack Moses, it might come up on YouTube. Like, wish you luck. I don't know what the production value of that film was.
No, the production value.
Oh
wait, the production value was good enough for like 9-year-old.
For then.
So I'm not really sure what
how it will.
But you know what? You know what we didn't talk about is sometimes, and I loved it when they would take biblical stories and then make them traditional.
Oh yeah,
that was very, very good. But yeah, those ones are that's a whole genre to itself that I think is often overlooked because the story is there. What is there is to Nigerialize it or to make it traditional. I don't even need to work too hard because you can just say, "Oh, this was a culture then," even though it wasn't, and it was the Israelites that practiced it. Now, we have forgotten the most important character that is in all traditional movies. The Dibia. The native doctor. The medicine man. The chief priest. He has many names, but we all know him because he's often dressed weirdly. he's often tying a wrapper of red. Now he plays a very interesting role here, because usually in a Nollywood movie, if you have the medicine man or you have the DB or you have the native doctor, they are often evil. But when it comes to a traditional movie, they are not. They are just helping.
They are the mouthpiece
Of the gods.
Of the gods.
I bet that's the name of the film. No. Do you want to pay?
No.
Yeah, they are the ones that the gods come in.
They are simply how you communicate with the gods.
Yes.
They are the ones that send messages
From the gods. They're the ones that tell you that the gods are angry.
The gods are always angry. So
Yeah, we
yes.
had discussion. Yeah, they are the ones that say.
They're actually a very, very important part of the story.
If the prince is sick, they are the ones that comes, treats the. They are the doctors. They are the pastors. They are the therapists
Counselors.
sometimes. Yes, the counselors. They really did do a lot. And then Christianity came and took their jobs away from them.
We haven't mentioned colonialism in a while. So there you go.
But yeah, the native doctor is so important. And then while we might say, I don't know if we can say there are any notable native doctors.
I think you find that you are very, very hard pressed to find who they actually are, because they are usually
They are not recognizable.
Yeah, the way their costumes are set up is they are actually not very recognizable
Not as
as
recognizable.
people.
And the thing is that even if there was somebody that played medicine that was notable, because from film to film his costume changes,
Will change dramatically.
so we won't
Depending on the kind of shrine he has, the god that he's serving, his staff will change.
His
Maybe
role.
he's wearing a hat.
Maybe a
not
boy is
wearing a
following
hat.
him.
Maybe he has a small boy. Do you know in my secondary school play for music
Yeah,
I was the small boy
that's.
that followed the native doctor around.
Did you have any lines?
No.
You should have kept that to yourself.
Maybe
Anyway,
I didn't want any lines, Miriam.
you know you did. But it can also be a chief priestess. It doesn't have to be a man.
True.
It's also a chief. There can also be a chief priestess.
Which often opens the avenue
For some romance.
The romance, yeah. So for the chief priestess, or for the chief priestess in training, that's who the stupid prince decides that the person is now in love with, or some random man that just lives in the village decides how to chase the chief priestess. Are you mad?
The chief priestess needs to live too. She may need to make another chief priestess in training.
No, she's chosen, not born.
She's chosen by the gods. But yeah, it can be a man or a woman, but it's usually a man. But sometimes it's a woman.
Sometimes it's a woman.
It's not 50-50, but it's, I think, about like.
But I think sometimes because she's a woman, that adds, or the fact that she's a woman, or quote unquote religion that goes with the woman chief priest, has a bearing on the story.
Yeah, sometimes it does. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's just a woman, which feminism.
The last one that I can think of is the chief.
The council of elders, the chiefs.
So you always get the supportive one who is, I can see him, but I have no idea what that man's name is.
Yeah,
And I can think of him, I can see him in like 4 or 5 different outfits at different time periods, and he's always playing the same.
No. Let's be
character.
honest. The chiefs are recognizable, but we don't know what they are called until when they get sick and in their old age, and the actors guild is not able to provide them with any help, and they have to come begging for donations because they are ill. Nollywood, take better care of your veterans. Just be better. Is what I'm saying. Yeah, but they're just like there are like 4 or 5 men that are always the chiefs.
Always the chief. And then the character of the bad chief, the disgruntled chief, the chief that is getting a little bit too big for his boots.
And is maybe thinking, I could be
I
king.
could be Igwe, Amechi Monagu, Chinotalo.
Yeah, but those are the recognizable ones. Most of the chiefs that we are talking about don't usually have that notable a role. They are just there to agree and disagree with whatever decision is happening. But the council of elders, the council of chiefs, so important. And I think that is actually something that we took from our history as well. Because what's a king without a court? And then obviously there's sometimes when one chief's son is in love with another chief's daughter, and it's forbidden because they hate each other.
Romeo and Juliet, man.
It's very Romeo and Juliet-ish. Yes. I think those are the characters. Let's move on
To the film?
to the notable films. We're going to segregate them. New Nollywood, old Nollywood. For old Nollywood, I think we're going to just name like the notable ones. And these will be mostly, before the video streaming era.
For me, for it to be a notable film, it's not just romance.
Of course.
So it's not your Romeo and Juliet and your Cinderella stories. I feel like for it to be a notable film, especially in this era, it has to either be an actual epic or a
tale,
a story,
a
journey,
historical.
or it's actually telling you the story of something that has happened or that could have happened in the past.
Okay.
So one of the biggest ones we've talked about it a lot of the time is Things Fall Apart with Peter Duce.
Things Fall Apart is a TV show, though. I mean, it was a series.
What do you mean?
It wasn't a movie. You know this, right?
No.
Have you ever watched Things Fall Apart?
I assume not. No.
Well, I did, but I didn't do it when I was young. I watched it for my college exam. Okonkwo, Tragic Hero, or Misaligned Fool.
Wow. Okay.
I'm just saying. This is giving me A-level vibes, but I will educate you on this. Okonkwo was scared about being accused of being weak like his father, who was a drunkard and sort of a soft man. So he made sure to toughen himself to be this. Okonkwo was toxic masculinity. Because he always had to seem strong, and that's why he killed his adopted son, even though they told him not to do it. And that's why, and because he was beating his wives, and he couldn't bend himself to the rules, to the new rules that were happening. That's why Okonkwo, in the end, ultimately could not live with the new rules and new changes, because he had to be strong always. I wrote a lot of essays on Okonkwo.
I can see that. We're moving on very swiftly.
Was it swiftly though? It took quite a long
Swiftly. Another one is the one we mentioned earlier on with Sam Dede Igodu, Land of the Living Dead.
Scary.
Oh, it was an epic. There was a journey. There's an evil forest. He was the son of a god, son of Amadioha.
Oh,
He
I'm
was
sorry.
looking oh yes, we're giving Thor vibes out here. It had a.
I've never really heard of Son of God from African mythology.
I'm sure they existed. This film does, but that would be really interesting. So you know how you have like your Odysseus's, Perseus's, all of the Zeus's.
Yes.
I assume that potentially could have happened with Nigerian gods too.
African mythology, please, not Nigerian gods. Thank you. Or the African pantheon, but there's no such thing as the Nigerian pantheon because we're different tribes. But but I don't think that in those days they thought of gods in that way.
No,
I don't know. We should probably know, but we don't. So let's move on. As you were saying.
So it had all the ingredients for a good epic film.
Yeah.
So it had a revenge plot.
Ooh.
It had an angry god. It had a deadly
Because
tree, I think it was.
Yes, I remember that.
Fantastic.
I watched that.
It had a journey
they
where
used to
you're
make-
going to retrieve something.
The tree made me terrified of trees for a while.
You should be terrified of trees, Marianne.
I'm sorry, what?
That's how I feel. Marianne, there are trees that have been around for literally thousands of years. You don't think that they have absorbed anything from humanity? Absolutely not. Trees to me are terrifying,
My mouth is
especially like really old trees.
my mouth is agape. This is a new side of you, and I don't like
I
it.
feel the same way about trees sometimes as I do about the ocean.
Let's move on, please. Because this is not a conspiracies podcast. It's an exploring Nollywood podcast. Okay.
Another one is obviously the Pot of Life.
Yeah, pot of life or egg of life?
It says Pot of. So we have Pot of Life.
Well, egg of life?
No, Pot of Life.
I know egg of life.
Egg of Life also exists.
Oh, also pot of life and egg of life.
And Egg of Life
Oh,
are two different
I think
things.
maybe they are remake or something.
Maybe. But I know
But I know
Part of Life.
Imperial Sylvanus is an Egg of Life.
Really?
Yes.
I think I watched that film. Part of Life. So again, you're journeying to the land of the dead for the Oba, who I think he either is sick, is going to be sick, is dead, and or dying.
Is that?
And then you have your really short stories like Twins of the Rainforest.
Yes,
so that was
I've
both
been
a
looking
film,
for Twins of the Rainforest
both
forever.
a film and a book. That one was really good.
With Joker Silva and
Olu Jacobs. And obviously the whole thing about if you give birth, there was a point in Nigeria, I think in
Nigerian history,
Calabar, where twins were seen as evil, so you had to throw one of your twins into the rainforest. And I think the story was like they took both twins and went into the rainforest.
I don't know.
Or they threw both twins into the rainforest and the twins came back on it. There were twins and there was a rainforest, and Olu Jacobs and Joker Silva were in the film.
And all my Nigerian homies know the story of Mary Celeste and how she stopped the killing of twins.
She didn't. She just adopted a lot of them that were supposed to be killed and or discarded.
Okay,
So,
cool.
learn your Scottish. She was Scottish, so learn your Scottish history.
No, I think you find that it's Nigerian history. I'm very sure Scottish history has no one called Mary Celeste in it.
She is literally on the Scottish Heritage websites.
Oh!
She was a Scottish missionary.
Oh, okay, cool. Sorry, Mary Celeste.
And then you have your actual historicals or your quote-unquote historicals where they're telling you the story of something that could have happened or should have happened. Pre-colonial or anti-colonial. Anti with an E. So you have something, a film called Battle of Mosongo, directed by Gab Okoye, which is a film that tells you about a British prince came to Nigeria on a mission as a missionary who sent you, not my consign, and he was kidnapped and killed through no fault of his own, I'm sure. And I read about someone that was talking about, I read about someone that reviewed the film, and at the time it was ahead of time where it was actually quite historically accurate with the costumes, but they didn't like it.
But
they
it
were
was
naked.
historically accurate.
But it was historically accurate, and also there was the fighting and there was wars and things
so
like that.
pre-colonialism, we were free the nipple.
Yes. You have King Jaja of Opobu. That was directed by Henry Ajana in 1996. So an Igbo king was enslaved and taken to Rivers State. So it just tells you the story about how sort of he overcomes
The British colonial forces.
that. So
I
honestly,
I think he died in exile. Or was that Nana?
I don't know. We've discussed that we don't know Nigerian history, so
Yeah, it's actually shocking.
So yes, I think in old Nollywood you can sort of separate the films into
Epics and
epics and historicals, where epics are your journeys and your quote unquote, I guess your romances will probably fall into that genre. But I feel like with the romances in the traditional films, it's more, this is a romance that we've put in a traditional setting, whereas the epics, you can't really translate that story into modern times.
That's true. I mean, you can. You actually can. There's this film. Please watch it. It's so good. It is on YouTube, and it is by, I love this guy, Ernest Obi.
I love Ernest Obi.
Yeah, Ernest Obi.
I forgot Ernest Obi when we're talking about Bad Boys of Nollywood.
Yes! Oh, he was the original. Well, he wasn't the original Bad Boy. That was Jim Mike. But he was there. He was up there. He walked so Michael Zoraya could run.
I don't think Michael Zoraya agrees with you, but
He was pre-Michael Zoraya. He was the bad boy before. Anyway, but there's this film called Idemili, and you need to watch it on YouTube, and it's sort of an epic, but set in modern times, but also in past times, where they go and they search for something. Shit, I forgot it. They go and they search for the cure to the source of a woman's powers, and it's like a properly well done epic, and I really love it. And it's by Ernest Obi. And Ernest Obi, actually, if we're going to talk about notable directors, we've talked about Uzegu J.
Uj.
I'm so sorry to this man. I'm so sorry for battering your name. I'm so sorry.
Ooh.
But speaking of notable directors, Ernest Obi has to be there, especially we're talking about New Nollywood. Because I think his period pieces in New Nollywood are really good. Like when it comes to practical effects, this man goes above and beyond. There's just a lot of creativity involved. There's a lot of how do I make this look unique? How do I make this look interesting? Involved in a lot of his work. So he has lots and lots of films. But I would definitely point out Idemili because I found that very satisfying to watch. It was beautiful. Some of the practical effects just blew my mind. Some of the CGI, some of the computer generated effects, woo! I was blown. But it's a Nollywood movie, so don't get too excited. Like some of them were still crap.
Wow, man.
I just see it as I say it. Speaking of directors, how could I forget Lancelot Mason? How?
I mean, you didn't forget. We're only just talking about that.
I'm just okay. That is true. Well, we're talking about New Nollywood now, and I'm thinking because of the way New Nollywood is set, we can't just focus on pre-colonial time. We also have to focus on the historicals as well. I think because it's New Nollywood, we can apply a more Hollywood-like explanation to them. So when I talk about the notable films and notable directors, I will be including ones that were set in the past but not in pre-colonial times. Well, back to Lancelot Mason. He's an old and New Nollywood director. He gave us some very, 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 very good hits in back in the day, and he's still giving it to us. You have Adeswa, 2012. That was about Bob Manuel was in that. I remember that. Benin Princess is kidnapped, and this brings chaos into the land as usual because the prince / king could not control his loss and stole a woman. Such is life. That story has happened many times. You also have Invasion 1897, which is about the British invasion and the sacking of the Oba's palace in, you guessed it, 1897. It's actually very good.
It's such a good film.
It's a good film. If you're gonna watch it, beware, you will be angry at our past. But it's well done, well acted, well directed. I would definitely recommend that you check that out. Moving on, we have to talk about Kunle Afolayan. Like, okay, if you are in Nollywood, even if you are not a Nollywood star, you have to know his name. Like, he's a scion. He's a scion. He's a leader of New Nollywood. Antonia is googling Kunle Afolayan because she didn't know who he was.
Is that his brother?
Yes, his brother is Gabriel Afolayan.
I love his brother.
Yes, we love his brother.
He's one of my favorites.
And then when it comes to historical, I think he is also a driving force. Can we talk about the figurine? The figurine is definitely what I consider one of the building blocks of New Nollywood. The figurine was so good. It gave us effects. It gave us story. It gave us history. In 2009. Really?
Mm-hmm.
Huh. It doesn't seem as old. But yeah, the figurine was good with Ramsey Noah, and where he steals a figurine and the figurine starts to haunt them. Next time, don't steal. The figurine had flashbacks to the past. That's why I'm including the figurine. Another big film that came out at the beginning of New Nollywood, and that's October 1 in 2014. It was set just before Nigeria became independent on the 1st of October 1960, and it's about a serial killer and a detective that's trying to find it. And may he rest in peace, Sadiq Baba, also known as Uncle Brutus. We have to talk about Amazing Grace. We've said a lot about Amazing Grace by Jetta Mata, and that was another high quality one, and that was sort of a precursor to New Nollywood, where it did something different. It was very well planned. I think it was one of the few movies that we had about colonization and about the slave trade and about this man, what's his name, John Newton, the guy that, okay, I should probably accord more respect to his name, but the guy that tried to stop slavery, and he falls in love with this woman. Why did they have to fall in love before they realize slavery is bad? They're like, oh, I want to sleep with her, so therefore, her economic conditions are not great. Why not just realize? And then you have the Herbert Macaulay affair, which is set in the 1920s, and it's about Herbert Macaulay. Herbert Macaulay used to be on our 1 naira note, but inflation, yo, we don't use that anymore. But he was all about ending segregation in our own country. Imagine, they were segregating us in our country.
The 1 naira note is like minus how many pounds?
I know, just the
If you want to
disrespect of my
spend
man.
Jesus.
It's just
It's not about him. It's more about the state of our currency as it is, and the current economic climate that we find ourselves in.
But still, a disrespect to my man Herbert Macaulay after he tried, and I adored his mustache. I think those are some of the notable films that you'll find in New Nollywood. There's a new one on Prime, Foreigner's God. They tried. So let's before we finish, let's close. What's your favorite traditional movie?
I don't know. There's too many of them. That's it.
Oh, okay.
That's it. I think there's too many of them that are too similar for me to pick
one.
one
Yeah,
that I like.
true.
I think usually there are some times where in my life I'm just like, I want to watch people in rapper, and so I'll simply type into YouTube village film Nigerian and pick one
Pick one that looks
at
appealing.
random.
Mine is actually a film starring the late great Muna Bekwe, Chioma Chukwuka, and basically he's a prince and she's his stepmom, and she's in love with him, but he's in love with someone else, and also it's an abomination and a taboo. And so the film is her chasing him. It's actually very funny. So tell us, are you into traditional movies, traditional epic village films? What's your favorite? Comment below. Tell us on Facebook, Instagram, and wherever you can find us.
Tell us what it is. Tell us why. If you do like traditional movies, if you don't like traditional movies, like a weirdo, why?
You want them to say, why are you so...
Why?
Okay. Thank you, everyone. See you in the next episode.